Okay. Well, my name is Salma El Naqqash and I'm 24 years old. I'm an Egyptian citizen and I'm one of the young people who participated in the revolution starting on January 25th. And well, let me give you some background about what happened with January 25th. Basically, we all witnessed what happened in Tunisia, and the Egyptian youth who created a fan page called Kullina Khalid Saeed, we're all Khalid Saeed, our Egyptian martyr who was killed by the police forces. It's the same group of people who started the fan page, called for a protest on the 25th of January, which represents Police Day. It's a national holiday, of course. And for this particular reason, we decided to start the revolution on 25th of January. And we took Tunisia as our own role model because they saw change. A lot of people died. They had a lot of martyrs, but they still attained a lot of rights. And they started the movement towards democracy. So we thought we can do the same thing in Egypt. So basically it started online, what we call online activism, and I have to say that a lot of people were skeptical because it was just online and we thought that people are not going to take it to the streets. But what happened on the 25th of January is that we found hundreds of thousands on the streets in all parts of Cairo. And of course, you know, the Egyptian riot police were trying to fight, were trying to push the protesters away and kill some and beat some, and they tried to fight us with tear gas, but we did not back down and we did not confront the riot police. Really what happened, I was on the street that day on the 25th of January, and what happened is whenever we found that there is a lot of tension between the riot police and the Egyptian protesters, we kept yelling peaceful, peaceful revolution. Right? So we demanded it to be peaceful, we demanded it to be by no means of violence, and that's exactly what happened. And I have to say something I observed, which is a lot of police officers respected the fact that we were saying it's peaceful, peaceful revolution. So they decided to let us move. That's how we mounted the main bridges of Cairo, like 6th of October Bridge and 15th of May Bridge, and a lot of bigger areas like downtown area like Tahrir Square, where the revolution stands today. And we just kept marching the streets, we kept demanding more Egyptians to join the protest, and we just stayed in the streets for the whole day. Of course, as I said, the riot police tried to fight us using tear gas, using rubber bullets, using water. They used everything they can, and we kept defending ourselves. We have to say that there were a lot of losses, there are a lot of martyrs on that day, but we still continued strong. And the families of those martyrs came down to the street to support our right to freedom and democracy, and our right to live decently, and our right to live with human dignity. So this was only the 25th of January, and we thought that because of the violence we were faced with from the riot police, we expected it to stop there. But really on the 26th and the 27th, people continued protesting. And of course, the riot police became more violent and stronger, but we did not stop. And then on the 28th, we called for another protest after Friday prayers, because, you know, Egypt is predominantly Muslim. So, of course, a lot of people pray Fridays, you know, in the mosques. So right after the prayers were over, we started protesting on the street again. And we took to a lot of main streets, even bigger than Tuesday. And we started marching, and we kept the center of our protests in Tahrir Square or Liberation Square. And the protests went on, and then on Saturday, which was the 29th of January, we called for an open strike until our demands met with respect, of course, and with some responsiveness from the government. We called for the strike, and it actually started. As you saw, for an entire week, people did not go to work, and they stuck to Liberation Square. And I have to say that in all the other governorates of Egypt, like Alexandria, the bigger cities of Egypt, like Alexandria, like Mahalla, Mansoura, Munufiyya, where our president Mubarak was born, just about everywhere people protested so strongly, and they went on strike, and we all stopped working, and we decided to keep to the streets until our demands are met. Let me tell you something very important about our demands, is that on the 25th, when we started the protests, we only demanded the uplifting of the emergency state and the implementation of the Constitutional Court's decree of 1,200 Egyptian pounds as a minimum wage for all Egyptians. And we also demanded the dissolving of our parliament, because it came with a lot of voter fraud, and it granted the National Democratic Party, which is the ruling party of Egypt, it gave them or granted them the majority of the seats in the parliament. We did not accept that at all, and that's why we wanted to demand, or we actually demanded the dissolving of the parliament as well. Of course, with the first speech of the president, we found that he's only doing some reshuffling in the government, which was not smart of him, to be honest, because we are not stupid. We know our demands, and we know that the reshuffling does not represent our demands at all. It was not remotely satisfactory for anyone who's genuinely Egyptian, let me say. So we continued on our protests and our strikes, and we said that we are going to put more demands on our list of demands, because this is not enough, and he's being very stubborn. He's not being responsive. So although he appointed the vice president, and people thought this is a move and that he is not going to have his son run for presidency, but still we did not buy this, we did not believe it, and we still continued to demand more and more rights. So we continued to, after his first speech, we decided to demand his stepping down, not just the previous demands. And we stayed on the streets, and then after his second speech, when he was very arrogant, and he was very disrespectful of the Egyptian people. And he only said that he's not going to run for presidency again, and that he did not mention the emergency law at all. And we know that he is not going to change anything related to the emergency law, because all the people who stood behind the Egyptian protests are going to be put in jail. So that's why we kept to the streets, and we said we are not going to back down on our revolution. And I like to call it, by the way, its label or its name was called the Anger Revolution. Right? A lot of people gave it other names, like the Egyptian Intifada, like the Egyptian Youth Revolution, like it had a lot of other names, but really it was just an anger revolution. It's an anger against unemployment, against police brutality, against Mubarak's corrupt regime, by all means. Of course, the demands are just still the same. People are not backing out. Yes, I know that yesterday people started going back to their businesses, but there are still about 1 million people in Liberation Square, in Tahrir Square, and there are a lot of people still protesting everywhere in the country, and we're not backing out until he steps down. A lot of people accuse us of following hidden agendas, or having hidden agendas, or following some foreign governments, which is just stupid. Because really, one of the reasons why we stand strongly against Mubarak is because he only implements foreign agendas, with all due respect. He's only seeking the American satisfaction and the Israeli satisfaction, no matter what, even by stepping on our bodies and on our souls and our rights. I don't know, a lot of you might not know, but he exports the Egyptian natural gas to Israel, but with 40% less, the price is 40% less than the actual price in Egypt, which is crazy. I know this is a source of energy for Egyptians, so why export it to Israel when you know that our country needs it? Honestly, I don't have a strong standpoint against Israel. I'm only against the brutality, and I'm only against the violence and the unequal use of force, because, this doesn't make sense at all to me. But again, I know that Egyptian resources should go to the Egyptian people first and foremost. And Mubarak is not doing that, and that's why we stand against him. And that's why it's completely stupid for us to hear from the people that we follow hidden agendas. And some of them were really funny, like I'll tell you something that made us really laugh on Tahrir Square. They said that each one of us, each protester on the street, was granted a Kentucky combo and some Pepsi cans and some chocolate from Barad'i, and also some about 50 pounds for each protester on the street. And I was like, seriously, so we are eating chocolate, Kentucky and Pepsi to, ask Mubarak to step down. This was really amazing to me. I mean, seriously, we're starving ourselves, we're staying on the streets, we slept in the streets, by the way, for a whole week. And actually, one more amazing thing I observed on Tahrir Square is that a lot of people came from the other cities And from the other governorate, sorry, during curfew time, they found buses, or they found small carts or anything as a means of transportation to come and support us in Cairo. It was just amazing, really, and it was beautiful. And I have to say that women and children also participated. Old men and old women participated. All the people participated, with no political ideologies in common, with no political representation in common. None of us follows a political party or has any sort of political affiliation, and with all due respect to the political opposition in Egypt, none of them represents the Egyptian youth. None of them represents them. A lot of them decided to start a dialogue with Omar Suleiman, the vice president. They do not represent us. I'm telling you, as an Egyptian citizen who does not have a political ideology and does not participate in any political party, and I'm telling you what people are telling us today on the street. They do not represent us. That's not what we want. We want a complete change of the regime. We want this regime to step down. And there is a general fear that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to take over and that Egypt is going to become another Iran. This is a complete lie. When the Muslim Brotherhood leaders decided to deliver speeches in public on Tahrir Square, we asked them to step down. We told them we want a secular state, and we don't want it sectarian, we don't want it religious, we want a secular state. That's what we are demanding. One of the main demands on Tahrir Square right now is that we want to have a minister for human rights. That's how much we respect human rights. That's what we want as our own intellectual reference in the government. That's why we're asking Mubarak to step down, because he violated the the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, and he violated all the conventions that he signed related to the United Nations. He just keeps violating human rights by all means, and that's why one of our demands today was a minister for human rights, following a lot of other Arab governments. I think in Morocco they do have a human rights minister, and we want to have the same. We want to see real democracy happening in Egypt. And again, let me repeat this, we're not asking for a religious state. I am an unveiled woman. I'm very secular. Some of my friends, or actually a lot of my friends, are actually atheists, and a lot of my other friends are Baha'is, and a lot of my other friends are Coptics, and they are all participating equally on Tahrir Square and all the main cities of Egypt. And they are not going to stop, and they will continue to demand the secular state, because we all want to be granted the same rights. That's all, really.